What's up, y'all? This is Jared Sandler. Happy Friday. Going to give you my wandering mind of sports. Every Friday, just going to bullet point some of the things that are on my sports mind. Of course, would really appreciate if you would subscribe and feel free in the comments section to either comment on what I've said. You can tell me I'm an idiot. Maybe you've got a question I'd be happy to answer, or if you want to just suggest future topics of discussion, you can do that as well. The first thing I want to share, and this is so random and not of the greatest level of importance, but what's one of the things we saw during the Last Dance? We saw that legendary starting lineup introduction of Michael Jordan and the Bulls during that era. I don't know about you, I love starting lineups. I think it's really cool to see how starting lineups are presented at different venues. And I get upset when I'm going to a venue for the first time and I miss that. Starting lineups still fire me up. I still get chills thinking about Sean Heath's introduction of Dirk for his final home game. I wish that teams and leagues would televise starting lineups more. Not just when a new player is playing in a city for the first time, or maybe an old player is coming back and they want to hear the reaction. I wish that starting lineups and televising starting lineups was a routine thing, especially in the NBA where, it's done relatively quickly. If you don't want to do it in the NHL because a lot of places really don't do it ceremonially anymore, certainly, in the NFL, and same with Major League Baseball. Although I would say that, those sports are missing out by not doing something nearly as ceremonious as the NBA. Another thing, the NFL yesterday ruled on a few different proposals. And let's start with the 4th and 15 that they shot down for this year. Now, there were a lot of comments that replacing the onside kick with a 4th and 15 from the 20-yard line, your 20-yard line, has legs moving forward, but they want to hone in on some of the finer points. I'll say this. I don't necessarily think 15 yards is the right yardage. The quarterbacks and the offenses are too dynamic and too talented. I wonder if that's too short. I don't know what the right answer for this is, but I'm thinking that I want my onside kick success rate to be around 15%. So I want a yardage goal to meet that. And I wonder if 15 yards is something that would be met a little more frequently. I don't want the onside kick to all of a sudden become relatively easy. And I'm not saying in the grand scheme of things 25% is easy, but way more than it really ever has been. So maybe it needs to be 4th and 20. I don't think the NFL is going to go with some odd or not round number like 4th and 18. But I don't understand why they couldn't have worked out those details right now. And it just seems like the NFL has clear-cut ways to make the game more exciting, and they're pushing it back a year. But last year, because the Saints and Sean Payton complained, they added a pass interference replay rule that they clearly didn't buy into. It seems like the NFL kind of does what it wants, and because they haven't gotten any reason to not keep that bulldozer moving forward, they don't make adjustments that you'd think they'd want to make. The other thing, the extra point was eliminated was changed, I should say, because the extra point that we used to know was a non-play. I mean, nothing ever happened other than the kicker would kick it through the uprights. It was a waste of time. The onside kick is trending towards that. It's not as stark, but it's trending towards that, and I'd love to see the NFL make that change. And it's not going to happen this year, which is unfortunate, but hopefully it happens next year. Speaking of kicking and plays that are, sorry, my beard is so big, it's like scratching my nose. Speaking of big plays that are not the same, the kickoff return. We saw a great blueprint in the XFL of what a kickoff return could look like that would provide some excitement, where you've got both sides kind of lining up 10 yards apart, no movement until the kickoff returner receives the ball. And I just remember growing up in the era where the kickoff return was exciting. The kickoff return was fun. And remember when Dante Hall was with the Chiefs and he had that one outstanding year? That was must-see TV. Now the kickoff return is merely Another opportunity perhaps for the TV networks to go to commercial break right after when the touchback occurs. There's nothing exciting, and I hope they change that. The other thing is replays. I know that replays are a divisive issue. Some people like them, some people don't. Some people only want them to exist for maybe scoring plays. Other people, just want them at a certain time period in a game. Right now, the reality is the NFL is allowing for replays to have a big impact on their sport and the outcome. Same with other sports. My thought is that if you're going to utilize replays, you need to lean in on that. See, that's a hot phrase right now. Lean in. Let's lean in on it. But the reason I say that is the goal of replay should be to get the right call and to get it as quickly as possible. And I recognize that not every call just through 3, 4, even 5 different angles is easy to make. And that's why some of these replay reviews take longer. But then let's add more technology, or let's add another official. And the NFL got rid of the Sky Judge proposal that they didn't pass that through. It just seems like if you want replay to be a big part of what you do, let's really commit to it even more. Instead of having a referee stand under a hood like a putz for 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, while we watch on TV and sometimes see that the obvious call could be made within 30 seconds, or sometimes realize, hey, we don't have the technology to make this call, or at least make it obvious. I'm not saying that they need every yard line to be marked with a sideline cam or anything, but I think it would make more sense if you're going to count on replay to lean in on it and to invest more in it. All right, let's move away from football. Quickly, Sunday night, the Lance Armstrong documentary, part 2. I love ESPN 30 for 30. It's really tough not to. I really enjoyed the first part of this. I'm not a big cycling fan. I do remember the Lance Armstrong saga, and I remember the craze of Lance Armstrong, the excitement when he would basically clinch each successive Tour de France. At one point it seemed like each year is like, oh, is he going to do it? Is he not? And then it became clear, hey, this is the day, this is the stage where he gets it in the bag, and he would, and there was some excitement. And now Lance Armstrong's clearly a horrible person, and maybe he's changed a little bit, but. In the immediate aftermath, once he was caught doing illegal things, he tried to drag people down with him, full on knowing that they were innocent and he wasn't, but yet he still tried to ruin other people's lives. One of the big takeaways for me during the first part of the documentary is that I don't know if it was just me because I was young, or if it was just the perception because we didn't know a ton about cycling. It's not like we followed these guys from the beginning of their professional career unless you were really in on it. I didn't realize how much of an a-hole Lance Armstrong was really from a young age. You heard his one coach when he was 15 talk about it. 15. The writing was on the wall. The signs were there. This was not a good guy. But because he did something incredibly courageous in overcoming cancer and then go on to win 7 Tour de France's, which at the time we didn't know definitively was done illegally, you would have thought this was like the greatest guy in the world. But part 1 at least showed that wasn't the case, and I'm looking forward to part 2. All right, a couple basketball things. First of all, there's no reason to have the NBA regular season. Clearly, guys who are on teams that have no chance don't want to play. Unless you're going to give some teams an opportunity to make the playoffs, it makes no sense. And the reality is, if you play out the regular season and only have the top 8 teams in each conference, as you traditionally do, make the playoffs, there likely is not going to be a single change. Yes, there are lots of teams who are not mathematically eliminated, but it would take major collapses for the teams ahead of them to lose spots to those teams. There may be, and even within the top 8, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room for seed changes, especially at the very top. The Lakers are going to be the top seed in the West, and that's not really going to change with all this. So I don't know. I just think that the regular season, and by the way, Milwaukee's going to be the top seed in the East. There's not a whole lot that's going to change for that. There are clearly players and teams that have no interest in being there. And I think because the standings are as firm as they are, it's not like the difference between the 8th and the 9th seed is a game. Milwaukee's 6.5 up on Toronto for the top seed. The Lakers are 5.5 up on the Clippers for the top seed in their respective conferences. Then you go to the Magic. The Magic are 5.5 games up as the 8th seed over the Wizards. So That's not going to happen. The Grizzlies are 3.5 games up over Portland for the 8th seed. Going to be awfully tough. That's a little more plausible, but it's going to be awfully tough for either Portland, New Orleans, or Sacramento to make that jump over Memphis. Yes, there is some wiggle room. Oklahoma City and Houston are each have the same record, and they're both one game behind the Jazz. I just think that the risk-reward isn't there. You can go right into a play-in tournament if you want. If you want to give a team like Portland or New Orleans or Sacramento a chance, that's fine. But I just think you go right into the postseason no matter what format you'd like. Bradley Beal, from a Mavericks perspective. A lot of people talk about Bradley Beal. Let's bring Bradley Beal to Dallas. He's the perfect fit. You're right. Bradley Beal is awesome. Without John Wall, he's averaged over 30 points a game this year. He can shoot the three. He's tough. He's got that grittiness that this team, I think, could use, especially in the backcourt. But you're not getting Bradley Beal. Mavs fans, we're not going to have Bradley Beal on the roster next year. I hear people say, the Mavs can give this, and they give their first round and this. No matter what package you put together that fits within the rules of the NBA from a financial standpoint, there are 3 or 4 or 5 other teams out there that can put together a better package. So I know it's a fun thing to talk about. We got creative when the Mavs got Kristaps Porzingis. And while, yes, people were talking about Porzingis as a trade option, it seemed like the Mavs kind of they broke curfew. They snuck out the window to get where they wanted to go. It wasn't like the spotlight was on Kristaps Porzingis at that time. They were a little stealthy. That's not going to be the case with Bradley Beal. Everybody's eyes are going to be on Bradley Beal, and I just don't think the Mavs are going to be able to put together the best package. And so, as much as I dream about Bradley Beal joining KP and Luka and perhaps Tim Hardaway and Steph Curry and this Mavs team to help them get to the next level, just don't see it happening. Mark Cuban and Donnie Nelson have proven an ability to be creative, and I think that ability could very well play itself out this upcoming offseason, but I just don't see it landing Bradley Beal. Final thing, baseball related. We're seeing a lot of minor leaguers cut here this week. Now, some of it is COVID related, but a lot of these guys likely would have been cut at the conclusion of spring training, which didn't happen. The difference here is that they have nowhere to go now, most of them at least. I'd imagine 95% of these players are not going to be picked up and added to the 50-man roster that teams are allowed to have. Maybe they get signed, but they've got nowhere to go. It's not like they've got a team calling them to get in games right now. There's not going to be a minor league season. Minor league life is hard. I know there are guys who get drafted highly and they get these big bonuses, and they do a little bit better. But most guys don't get that. Most guys aren't million-dollar bonus guys. Most guys, don't come from that really affluent background that can help support them. Minor league life is rough, and I hope Major League Baseball and Major League Baseball players who have a powerful voice do something about it, because they're all minor leaguers. They know what it's like, most of them at least. It's a tough week for the minor leagues. You got Oakland saying they're not going to pay their minor leaguers, which is a crock of crap because their owner is a billionaire, and it would take a combined $1 million to pay these guys $400 a week, which isn't a whole lot the rest of the year. And silly move, by the way, by the A's, because after the 5-round draft, it's essentially a recruiting battle to bring in the really good players who were borderline 5th-round picks, or maybe otherwise would have been an 8th round or a 9th rounder, guys who are important to an organization. It's just a recruiting war at that point. How's Oakland going to win that recruiting war doing what they just did? It's silly, but it's also, it's just careless. And I hope that the conditions for minor league baseball players improve, but I feel for these guys. I can't say that I've lived it, but having broadcast baseball in the minor leagues, I've seen it. I see what these kids go through, especially at the lower levels, especially the further and further away they are from the major leagues, especially when they have less and less of a chance to cash in on those dreams. It's tough, and I feel for those guys. All right, that's my wandering mind of sports here on this Friday. Every Friday, that's what we'll do. Sometimes during the week we'll have a specific theme, but Friday usually will be my opportunity to just unload whatever's on my mind Again, would love for your thoughts in the comments section. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. Even if you don't want to listen to another or watch another video ever again, it takes 2 seconds. It has no impact on you. It helps me. I appreciate it. But comments, thoughts, questions, suggestions, love to hear them. Have a great weekend. Talk to you soon.